They call this place the Temple of Speed. As such, Autobahn has elected to stay true to the spirit of the circuit and remove the first chicane. For racing drivers, there's no such thing as too fast. We'll see who can handle all that extra velocity as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Autobahn Sportscar Challenge, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth today is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sometimes it's easy to forget just how much racing history has taken place here. This beautiful Royal Park has closed in on an entire century of motorsports. So why don't we pause and take a moment to learn a little bit more about this most famous of Italian tracks. Welcome to Monza. This track has a major place in racing history, not just for the legendary races, names, and cars that have been here, but because it was the third purpose-built car racing circuit in the world. It's often discussed and reverenced among fans, and especially by Italians who have nicknamed it the Temple of Speed. In fact, the Ferrari fans here are so famous for their devotion that they have been dubbed the Tifosi and never fail to show up in droves. While the real world offers only 3 feasible layouts to race on due to safety, in iRacing, the inclusion of the oval and the lack of safety concerns gives it a stunning 9 versions drivers can choose from. The modern GP layout is of course the most well known, with its long history of hosting the Italian Grand Prix. But the oval and combined circuits allow those who thirst for more speed to satiate that craving with its insanely high banking. Indeed, incredible velocities are a staple of just about every version you can race here. Draft battles are not uncommon, no matter which car you're racing. But the inclusion of the chicanes makes using an outbraking maneuver a much more tricky way of overtaking. The circuit is notorious for drivers getting tangled up with each other while running side by side in these slow and cumbersome corners. In fact, one of the greatest dangers for drivers is the first few laps when the field is still clumped together and attempting to navigate them 2 and 3 wide. While there are other modern circuits with high-speed straights, the fact that Monza sits inside the Royal Park just north of Milan and is still tightly lined with trees heightens the sense of speed here. All in all, Monza is unmatched in its history, thrills, and great racing. Its significance in motorsports history and culture is sure to be unchallenged for years. And see what we mean when we talk about it being in a park here, because, well, Adam, there is plenty of foliage and plenty of shading around this track. However, I think that won't do anything to keep the cars from getting pretty hot with all the speed they've got.
Definitely not, Joe. The Autodromo Nazionale di Monza is one of, if not the most famous of Italian racing tracks. But this 3.5 mile or 5.63 kilometer track has an interesting facet to it. It only has 9 turns in this layout with the first chicane. This layout will make the speed into what is now turn 1 upwards of 160 miles per hour for all classes and encourage significant draft battling from the Parabolica all the way down to Della Roggia. This will make the multi-class interactions very interesting, as all classes will be battling each other down the front straight, often fanning out 2 or even 3 wide, which could be troublesome for the faster classes behind. Each class will be flat out for most of the course, making nailing the technical Della Roggia, Lesmos, Ascari, and Parabolica complexes crucial to lap time and retaining track position, which will be at a premium tonight. Drafting will be the name of the game to pass, and expect some folks to have some decent amount of fuel saving riding behind the pack that's ahead of them, and trying to get an advantage during the pit stops tonight. Draft battles, fuel saving, multi-class. We're in for a treat tonight, Joe.
I have a feeling that that fuel talk is going to be a major point here for us throughout our coverage. Speaking of our coverage, why don't we go over our points now that we are in the 4th round? And up in the prototypes, it is Miguel Vigo leading 2 points ahead of Stephen McGarvey. Those two very tight. In fact, really the top 5 only separated by 10 points. Wolf, Cronin, and Olivier rounding them out. It is looking like this is the most competitive of the 3 classes at the moment. If we head on down to the GTLMs, Adam, how is that sitting?
Yeah, this GTLM or GTE class is a little bit more separated. Mike Young is currently leading that with 61 points. He's got 17 points over Scott McGarvey and Bradley Haley, who are tied for second, with Ryan Huff in third, 23 points back in the lead, and then Kevin Binkley 10 points back of that. But Mike Young with a pretty strong lead right now. What do you got in the GTD class, Joe?
Well, we've got Kevin Santana leading the way, and not a huge gap for him, but a decent one, as he's 10 points ahead of Ryan Wash. He's, of course, looking to make up for a missed championship last season. And Paul Lindsay, look at how close he is behind Wash as well. Uh, Sheldon Rosenbaum and Lionel Duprat round out the top five. This one is a little bit closer than what we were seeing in the GTLM, so that should be a good fight today, as drivers will have a lot on their minds in terms of the championship. Let's head over to the team points as well, Adam.
Yeah, Automobile No Disassembly leads with 129. They've got a pretty decent lead over SRN Gray of 20 points, but that gap can really disappear quickly if they're not careful. Lap Rats Racing is only 5 points out of second, with SRN Orange only 5 points out of third. And then we have Autobahn East 57 points out of the lead and quite a ways back, but really it's quite close between those top four positions.
Now, let's take a glance at the race details for today as well, in case we have viewers who've never seen this series before. Round 4 out of 14, as we mentioned. Now, there's all the different cars that you have among the different classes. The prototype is single make there with just the HPD. And then the GTLM has the most choice among 4 different makes of cars, all balanced out to the best of their ability. And then the GTD has 2 different makes, the Audi and the Mercedes. I'm double checking to see if we even have any Audis here. And it looks like we've got at least 2 of them. 3 of them, actually, I can see. So big numbers for the Audis today, considering usually the Mercedes is by far the most popular in that slowest class. It is open setup in all 3 of them. And then the race distance today is going to be an enduro, 90 minutes that they'll be out there. And they have an incident cap in there as well. 36 off tracks, and you find yourself DQ'd immediately. There's a number of places where you can run afoul of that at this place, so drivers will have to watch out. So we have qualifying go underway now. It is the prototypes that are out there, and Nathan Lewis continuing on his strengths here, Adam. He is up on the provisional pole.
Yeah, we remember Nathan Lewis and Miguel Vigo's staunch battle at Sebring just a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago now, and he's now still putting in good times, almost 2/10 above Miguel Vigo, who currently leads the championship. Miguel, remember, had a really bad race last week in DNF, so that's going to be a tough recovery for him. So Miguel looking to redeem himself, and Nathan Lewis doing an excellent job defending his current dominance.
Jason Girard, who's had a bit of an unusual season for himself, is currently sitting third. He's good in pace. He's got good qualifying, but he just hasn't really been finishing races well. Unlikely mistakes for the O2. So we watch him come around Parabolica. And this looks like this is a warm-up lap, the way he's coming around wide there. His last one was his quickest at a 28.4. We'll watch just to see if this is an improvement, just in case. But that was a very wide entry. And indeed, that one didn't count. So it looks like he was setting himself up for a run.
Yeah, Jason Girard going on to a flyer. And we're going to take a look one more time at Lewis, who's coming off of the corner. But, yeah, I mean, Nathan has quite a decent gap. We're going to see whether that's an improvement. And that last lap was not an improvement over his last time. Stephen McGarvey coming across the line now, and he does improve by 3/100ths. So that's not going to move him up any positions, but he's going to retain 6.
I'm watching Vigo, who's actually got a nice tow from Olivier, and he's coming around the Parabolica right now. This is Dominic that we ride on board with. He's the one in front. There is Miguel Vigo trying to use any slipstream he can get, and it doesn't help him. That looks like a slow lap, actually, so I wonder if that was an out lap for him. This might be the money lap for him.
Yeah, Vigo's got a great tow going into the first corner, but we're looking at Clifton Norano, who is looks like he's a little slow on the backstretch too, probably setting up for his good starting lap run.
So interesting. This is looking like what we see with the big boys usually up in Formula One in real life, where drivers kind of try to take an off lap, get the tires and everything prepped, and set themselves up for a real flyer instead of just running lap after lap like we tend to see here in the sim.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to benefit you on a high-speed track like this one. You're going to get hot tires going around the final couple of corners. So as we take a look at Jason Girard, looks like he is just started his flying lap right now. His last one was a 128.477. So Jimbo Pfeiffer now coming out of the final corner.
Last one was actually the flyer for the 0-2, and that was 2/1000ths quicker than his previous lap. Very small margins. Obviously doesn't take him out of third. Stephen McGarvey does go quicker, a 28.6 that last time across, but actually gets bumped down to 7th. Who just jumped ahead of him here?
That was Clifton, who just jumped ahead of him just by a little bit in the last couple of laps. And then Dominic Olivier just put in his time. John Ulmer coming around the corner now. He's currently in 4th, and he sets a 1:28.864, so not quite as fast as his fastest lap. He's going to go around one more time.
Ulmer's had a lot of offs here. I'm seeing 3 laps that did not count for him, only 2 that did. Naranjo just getting ready to finish another one. Clifton around the Parabolica. His last was his quickest at a 28.6, and he's actually heading into pit lane, so he's done with that. He will have time to get out for one more with 4 minutes left on the clock. Let's see what Overbay can do. Quicker.
No, he did not manage to improve, unfortunately. Jason Gerard did improve, though, by 0.2, so that puts him up to 3rd over Ulmer.
Well, he was there in 3rd, and that puts him within, 8/1000ths of Vigo. So he is just shy. If he can continue to chip away in these last few laps, he could get into 2nd place. He is awful close. Josh Wolf, as we watch him, currently sitting in 10th, comes down to the line. It looks like that was a non-lap for him. We still don't see Pelchat and Carbonneau out on track. I'm not sure why they haven't taken a lap yet. Checking to see if they are even in the session right now. Let's see, Pelchat is. And Luke Carbonneau is not. So I do not expect Luke to be taking part in this race, rather. Pelchat should, according to what we're seeing, with him actually being in the server as we watch Vigo one more time.
What was it? Outlap for Vigo and outlap for Dominic as well. So they're setting up a nice tow for Dominic right there. Billy Smith comes across for an outlap. So we're on to the final laps. Some of the final laps for these guys. Looks like they're going to have a chance for 2 more. These guys who just came across the line.
Nathan Lewis, what about our pole sitter? He's almost 0.2 over Vigo. Can he extend that, which would be phenomenal? No, he cannot. Another driver with an outlap setting up for this final run. Even still, 0.2 is a bigger margin than you usually see at a quick lap like this. Jimbo Pfeiffer, who is about 1.5 seconds down from our pole sitter, currently in 11th place, trying to come around to improve on that 29.5. Let's see what he's got. 29.4. That's just a little bit quicker, but not enough to overtake Wolf ahead of him.
Speaking of Wolf, here's Wolf crossing the line. He does not improve on his time. And it looks like Nathan Lewis actually had a little bit of trouble under braking, so he's had to break off of his lap, so he'll get one more. Jason Gerard coming around the final corner, setting up for his final fly. Well, he might be able to get one in after this, but it's at least his second to final flying lap.
Yep, and that one didn't count for him. Looks like he had an off somewhere as we now watch Stephen McGarvey. And a 1:29.8 is not going to do it. In fact, he crossed with just barely enough time that he could come around to start another one if he wanted to use this as a sort of quick prep lap for himself. Miguel Vigo also not able to go quicker than that 28.1 with a 28.7 last time across.
Yeah, the car behind him was Dominic Olivier, and he did not improve either. So John Ulmer coming around, starting his final flying lap. Nathan Lewis is about to start his final flying lap to see whether he can retain pole over Miguel Vigo.
And behind him, who's that getting a tow? Trying to catch. That is Overbay, actually. Overbay could definitely use that. And there you can see the gap between them is coming down greatly. The 68 is using this to great effect.
Pfeiffer looks like Pfeiffer improved his time too. Joshua Wolf improving his time. He cut a decent chunk out of that time.
See, now we're back to Gerard. Is he going to try and start another one? Is this going to be any quicker Again, all he needs are 8 1,000ths to put himself onto the front row. He doesn't have it this lap. He continues on, so it looks like he's at least going to try it.
Steve McGarvey gets across the line, so he can take another flying lap if he chooses to. It looks like he's going to. That was his fastest lap, so he's able to do that. But everyone else, qualifying is over for them. Miguel Vigo crosses the line, does not improve. Neither does Dominic Olivier. John Ulmer's pulling over to the side of the road, so quite a few people have decided that their days are done. That leaves Jason Girard and Michael Over.
Interestingly, Vigo looked to be on a decent lap, and he pulled over and slowed up before he even got to the line, so he wasn't happy with that. Overbay, as he comes around, is going to try and see if he can get out of this ninth spot. No, he's not. He's going to pull it into the pits, and even with his slipstream, doesn't think he can improve. This leaves it now to Jason Girard. Potentially could get on the front row. Could he even jump it to pole? As he comes down into a Ascari, takes quite a bit of curb. Looks like he is confident with how the car is handling. Tidy through there as he now comes down towards Parabolica. One last corner to go for the O2 machine. Still yet to win this season. Again, unusual for how dominant he was last season. Granted, he did start it a little bit slow as he's
coming through the corner.
sliding. Somehow he caught it, but that is a disappointment and too much time lost for the O2 as he abandons the lap. And that sets our grid for today. Wow. Very, very close in much of the field through all of the classes. Let's go through that order. It's going to be Nathan Lewis on the pole with Miguel Vigo starting in second place. Jason Girard in P3 today will be followed by John Ulmer to his outside. Dominic Olivier starts fifth today. Billy Smith in P6, and then Stephen McGarvey, unusually low for him, starting P7. Clifton Naranjo, P8 in qualifying. Behind them, Michael Overbay starts ninth. Into his outside will be Josh Wolf rounding out the top 10. Jimbo Pfeiffer starts 11th and Mike Major 12th. Not sure if we'll see Luke Carbonneau and Patrick Pelchat start.
Mike Young's going to take pole for the GTE class with Jason DeVries alongside him. Scott McGarvey's going to line up in third, and Bradley Haley's going to line up fourth. Carter Kundinger lines up in the fifth position alongside Kevin Binkley in that third row, with Olivier Turcotte lining up in seventh position alongside Vance Bow. Daniel Grauty and Lee Peterson round out the top 10 starting positions for the GTEs, with Ryan Huff in 11th. Robert Cancian starting off 12th, with Daniel Johnson in the Lucky Vickers dozen position, with Mark Wilson alongside him in 14th, and Steve Jones lining up in 15th position.
Kevin Santana, who seems to be confident from our chat with him before the race, he's managed to put it on pole with Paul Lindsay next to him in second. Then you got Ryan Wash in P3 in that class. Paul Slavonic starts fourth. Shane Hunter, P5 for him, with Sean Fleming starting in sixth. Then you got Sheldon Rosenbaum in seventh, Eric Antilli to his outside in eighth. Ninth goes to Lionel Duprat, in 10th to Mark Kudrowski. Marty Jeffries puts it in 11th, Sean Reese in 12th, and Matt Owens in 13th. Then you got Jared Eaton in the P14 position. Corey Mitchell, 15th for him, 16th to Jay Friel, 17th to Tim McLeish, and Jerry Mueller and Chris Sherburne rounding out your fields who put in qualifying times. Martin Roy looks like he will line up. There you see Pelchat and Carbonneau. Even though they are put down there, we are waiting to see if they actually show up. So, as the cars work their way out, the temperature today is actually not too bad. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. We were talking about this before we went live, that it's really the kind of Goldilocks temperature right now. Not too cold, not too hot. And the wind is certainly not going to play a factor at only 5 miles an hour around this track. Of course, let's see, southeast, I'll have to check to see my directions. Because if it is a headwind on any of the significantly long straights, Adam, that can make a minor effect, I guess.
It is a headwind. It's going to be a headwind, especially going into the Curva Grande, so that could make the cars a little bit unstable through there, especially for those that don't have a lot of downforce, like the GTDs. So it's going to be a little bit of a win from the front right bumper going down the straight.
I have news on Pelchat. He did grid up, so he's going to take part in this race. That means, I believe, we'll have 45 drivers out there. Not the largest field we've seen here, but enough that you can get tangled up in one another. Thankfully, they've got a lot of long straights to try and deal with it. See our GTD class, heading under the bridge of the oval. As now we look at our prototypes coming down towards Parabolica, not doing a full pace lap around here. Got a bit of the hiccups today. And all they have to do is take it around that final corner. Our pace car, the Porsche, will give way and allow Nathan Lewis to have control. They do have a line in which they have to wait to start, and it won't be until after the pit entry. As the pace car peels in, Lewis keeping pace. Green flag is out. He took off a little bit early. He might hear from the stewards from that one. As they now accelerate away, Miguel Vigo in second place has two cars stalking him, Gerard and Ulmer, and no chicane again here. So they're going to come up to the very fast Curva Grande, and it'll turn off to the right, easily flat out as they almost come together between Gerard and Vigo. Managed to give each other space. Vigo going to try and take a look as they come up into the Della Rosa, but they're going to stay single file. In fact, mostly single file as we head back now to the GTLMs.
GTLM's Mike Young got a great launch, but look at the draft that Jason DeVries is able to pull on that outside in the BMW. He's going to go into the first corner here, the Curva Grande, and they're going to take this flat out. Look at all the two wide battles going on down through the field. Jason DeVries, though, has the inside line coming into the braking zone, and Mike Young looks like he's going to back off, getting squeezed by Jason DeVries. As they go through, they're going to all single file out here as we go back to the GTDs.
Right now, it's Kevin Santana leading the way. On the outside, though, falling back, Ryan Wash decides he doesn't want any of it and gets back single file behind Paul Slavonic, third in that class. This is looking actually very studious amongst everybody. A little bit of bumping and banging as everybody nudges one another trying to find space. One car off in Della Rosa. That looks to be Kudrowski, who collects it without hitting anything or anyone and gets it going once again. So otherwise, a very clean start all throughout.
The HPDs are back onto the front stretch. That's with Nathan Lewis in the lead, but look how separated they all are. Everyone's really separated here in this HPD class, so these drafts are not going to be quite as effective. I don't think anyone's going to have an opportunity to pass before they get to the Curva Grande. Remember, the HPDs could take this at full throttle. They could take this flat out even in the draft. So here they go through the corners. It's getting pretty tight back there.
Yeah, we're watching two of them. This looks to be Billy Smith and Clifton Naranjo trying to fight for sixth place. Clifton can't quite catch him as we now look back at the front pack, and Vigo ran down Lewis in that slipstream. Man, it was amazing looking down that front stretch, that camera angle, just an absolute train. Nobody was ducking out. Everybody was trying to use whatever draft they could.
Yeah, and that's something you're going to see this entire race. Fuel strategy is definitely a major factor around here with the amount of drafting you can do. So staying behind people until the pit stops, that's your best strategy. It's the guy in the lead who's actually going to lose out in the pit stop.
Right on board. Vigo applying a lot of pressure here. He got awful close down into Ascari. I was half watching Kevin Santana and Lindsay because they were getting close, but it looks like they will stay in order. As let's watch Vigo here. Let's see. He's much closer this time than what we saw last lap. As long as he can accelerate well off of Parabolica, this is looking decent. Only 0.3 between them as they cross the finish line one more time and come down the front stretch. Does the 36 want to actually effect a pass, or does he want to stay in line?
This is way closer than the first lap. I think he's got a really good opportunity, but look at that. He's not really looking for that opportunity right now. He's staying in line. Let's see what happens when they get up to Della Rosa, because that could be his best opportunity. Look at him, look to the outside here, but he's going to stay in line, but that's allowing the third place driver to close in here. He's going to take a peek to the inside, but no, he stays in line behind Nathan Lewis. Look at that.
And he makes a mistake, and that actually blocks up those behind him. Gerard and Ulmer have to take evasive action as that's Naranjo spinning in the background.
Yeah, Naranjo's around. He just got bottled up in that large braking zone, so a lot of people struggling under braking here. I'm noticing that the high speeds are making people a little bit desensitized to how quick they're going. When they get into the brakes, they really close up to the cars ahead, and Naranjo just getting on those curbs a little hard and slipping off.
Let's go to the GTLM lead because DeVries is being challenged by Young. He took a little bit of a look once again, poking his nose out, but deciding better of it. as they now swing through the De La Roja chicane. Nobody making any moves. We said that the fuel would be a talking point, but I think everybody does not want to be the leader so far.
No, I definitely don't think so. Jason DeVries is a little bit strung out right now. Mike Young was looking to try and maybe do an over-under on DeVries through the De La Roja chicane, but the curbs are so tall, he couldn't get a good launch off. He just got those right tires in the air and couldn't really get a good launch, but he's right under the bumper of DeVries.
We are seeing a bit of a split in the GTDs. Let's stay here, but just an update. Second, third, Lindsay to Fleming. There's a huge gap right now, 2.5 seconds. And I'll tell you if that starts to erupt back there. And meanwhile, second place in the HPDs. Now, what happened to Gerard? Did he lose all this just in this last lap?
I think that was because of the spin out from Miguel Vigo ahead of him. They're now 2 seconds behind and way out of the draft of Nathan Lewis. Now that's not actually good news for Lewis or Gerard, because now Gerard doesn't have the draft benefit, but Miguel Vigo has been putting pressure on Gerard ever since making that mistake. Miguel did, and so Gerard's having to defend a little bit.
Oh, and we got to go back to P3 in the GTDs because they are side by side right now. Paul Slavonic to the outside of Sean Fleming. I wondered if maybe they'd work together to try and catch up to the leaders, but that does not look like the case based on what we saw here. Shane Hunter is that third one, the red and white Mercedes you see looking to split the middle potentially. He's going to make it 3 wide as they come down the front stretch, flying along at 170 miles an hour. And he does manage to make it through with a nose ahead. So 2 positions and 1 as they come together behind him. And that's Fleming and Slavonic making slight contact at 160 miles an hour around the Curva Grande.
Yeah, these guys are very, very tight as they get through De La Roja. Look how tight this battle is. These guys very close together and still battling side by side behind them. Looks like another car trying to peek out there. A lot of guys really struggling right now to get those cars woed down in the braking zone.
Rosenbaum trying to see if he could do anything on Wash, but it didn't quite work out as we ride on board with Hunter now in third. All this fighting has put them now 4 seconds behind Santana and Lindsay, really not helping their case.
And we have a similar split going on in the GTEs between 7th and 8th position between Olivier Turcotte and Daniel Gralti. Daniel Gralti's actually got a good train behind him. He's actually been challenged quite a bit here, and actually that's Robert Canchin right in behind Ryan Huff, and he's trying to give himself a tow going into the Curva Grande.
Yeah, and you can see to the inside, Leif Peterson trying something on Daniel Johnson. That's not quite working out. Canchin also a little bit of a look, but nothing doing as they hit this fast right-hander. Cars washing out as Ryan Huff has to go defensive. Ahead of them, an attack from Val on Daniel Gralti as they break into the De La Roja chicane. And I think Val's got it clean with a brilliant move as Gralti's now head up. And look at them fan out. That's Huff and Canchin, both hoping they could do something down into the first Lesmo. Doesn't work out for either, and in fact, it looks like Daniel Johnson is going to try to pick up the pieces from
and we've had an accident in the prototypes. Jason Gerard has been spun. They were going 4 wide down the front stretch.
Oh my goodness. Big incident here. We said Gerard has not had a good season, and it's gone all the worse. They've caught traffic. That's what caused it to go 4 wide. Gerard clipping into, who was that? That was Mueller. Mueller got the worst of that.
They got through 4 wide a couple of times, but then this last time it was just too much. The track narrows just a little bit there, and he, oh my goodness, just gets caught out. Jason Gerard into the pits with major damage. Jimbo Pfeiffer as well, and with no spare car, they're in big trouble. Looks like Robert Canchin's had a spin as well.
I figure out what happened.
Just now, Robert Canchin and Leif Peterson spinning around, exiting the Parabolica.
So trying to figure out exactly, yeah, that's 27th overall for Canchin, the number 199. This is in the Parabolica. Let's see how this starts. Canchin starts to spin on his own. Oh. He's going to get walloped by Leif Peterson. Mark Wilson is going to have to take evasive action. This is Cantion you see on screen in the center there. There he goes around. Unfortunately, since he tries to catch the car, that's when Peterson just finds him coming right back in the middle of the track. And Wilson, with a good job not making any contact and going around. Oh, that is a hard hit. So as we come back to the lead in the prototypes, Nathan Lewis is now 2 seconds ahead of Vigo as they continue to work through traffic. Interestingly, this has promoted John Ulmer, who is one of those who was in that 4 wide situation. He's caught up to Miguel Vigo and is riding his coattails in the slipstream.
Yeah, they were actually side by side going through the Curva Grande, and now as they navigate this GTD traffic, passing the leader in the GTDs, Kevin Santana, that's actually allowed Miguel Vigo to pull away a little bit, but Nathan Lewis has actually gotten held up a little bit as well, so this is giving ground back to Vigo.
You can see Vigo trying to make sure that he doesn't have any cars separating himself and the leader in his class. He gets clear of them, but there's more yet to go. And I'm keeping half an eye on our leaders in the GTLMs because that is staying as a very close pack from first all the way back to, looks like 7th place there.
Yeah, and those guys are saving fuel, actually. I watched as Mike Young followed Jason DeVries down the front stretch, and Bradley Haley had a good run too, and they chose not to try and make a pass on Jason DeVries, so the fuel saving is definitely happening at this point.
Well, do not adjust your monitors. We were talking about this a little earlier, Adam. Cloud cover coming over, and actually I think it cooled down the track marginally. It's down to 83 degrees Fahrenheit. It was up to 86 at one point. So this is certainly helping them find a little bit of grip out here. We ride on board with DeVries, looking back at the Ferrari of Mike Young. Going along Bradley Haley and Scott McGarvey.
You know, look at Mike Young. He's gaining, but not at the speed that you normally gain in the draft. Mike is definitely measuring his pace right now, and that's going to allow him to save a lot of fuel as he gets up close behind Jason DeVries. But if he's not careful, Bradley Haley may decide, you know what, I want to be second and make a pass on him. So let's see what happens here on the front stretch. I think it might actually be Scott McGarvey who makes the move.
He's very, very close behind Haley. They're coming up on, this looks like Pfeiffer returning to the track after taking his repairs. They go on through, past the chicane that they don't have to worry about this time around, into Curva Grande.
They're all checking up, Joe. They're all checking up and saving fuel.
Well, and what I've also found interesting is that they all kind of ducked out of each other's slipstream in that corner. So I wonder if they're trying to avoid the aero wash of the car ahead.
Yeah, that could be a real danger. Oh, look at that. That's a car going through the center of the De La Rosa. That's Daniel Gralti who had a little bit of trouble there. You're going to have to go back to a single car incident, but he really clobbered those curves.
Let's take a look at it. He had some help, I think. I think Ryan Huff got into him. Yeah, he had Ryan Huff shove the back end of that car. That's why he had to go straight through. Here we're going to see it.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, those two are teammates as well.
Could be taking bump drafting a little too literally here.
Oh, and oh my goodness, it just hurts to hear the car jump those curbs. Those are so high.
Some serious damage that can be done by the sleeping policemen that they've placed amidst the chicanes through here. I believe P4 in the prototypes is looking pretty hot right now as Olivier and Smith are trying to get that sorted out. They're not too far behind John Ulmer, who seems to have lost track of Vigo now. So this could potentially be for a podium. They come up on more traffic. That's Steve Jones just in front of them.
Yeah, Billy Smith isn't quite close enough to Olivier to make this pass, but we're about to go into the Curva Grande, and with traffic, this can get pretty interesting for guys if they're not careful.
That's Gralti in there, and they're going to go around the outside. How much is he going to wash out? He's going to make sure and leave them space. So Billy Smith and Olivier cleanly through. They do seem to have closed up quite a bit on Ulmer, and then coming off the corner, John just incredibly strong.
Yeah, focusing on corner exit on a fast top speed track like this can really help you out with trying to manage track position and make sure you don't get past. Take a look at that. Ulmer got a bad exit that time, and that allows Olivier and Billy Smith to gain to close up a little bit. But they've got this traffic to contend with, and it's squeezing them pretty hard.
Now, this is something of a narrow track through much of it, too. You should point out. And wow, sending it in deep. Olivier trying to take as much speed as he can into the Ascari chicane. It bit him on the way out. Just exactly what we were just saying, Adams. Ulmer took advantage of the slow in, fast out, and gaps himself from Olivier just like that.
Yeah, and that's going to be your best way, your best strategy of staying ahead of folks. And when you're behind somebody, that's also your best way of making a pass if you want to make one, is to make sure you get slowed up quickly enough, you get your nose pointed in the right direction and get off the corner quickly, especially on this long straight.
Meanwhile, look at this action between Hunter and Fleming. Hunter holding that podium position. Fleming in fourth, Slavonic back to fifth since we last looked. They've broken away from the cars behind, so it's a 3-car pack, but they're 7 seconds behind Paul Lindsay in second place. Let's see how much they work together. They're coming onto the front stretch. This makes me wonder if there's any sort of game of leapfrog that can be played to try and run them down.
We had an incident in the prototypes. Billy Smith and Dominic Olivier, and they wrecked right ahead of our battle for 8th place in the GTEs.
Let's take a look at how this happened here. Oh, you know what? Olivier got some help. Olivier Turcotte. The two Oliviers came together, unfortunately. And that was in De La Roja yet again.
Yeah, and you see it's just difficult as all get out to try and navigate those sectors. And look how close the GTs get to hitting him as well.
Yeah, Billy Smith was parked in an absolute horrible place, but he had no place to go, and then everybody else behind him had no place to go. Again, something of a domino effect. Yeah, he just gets plugged up there. And then you saw all the GTLM cars were quickly coming up behind him. Smith is running in 6th with Olivier in 7th now. Billy's going to try and get the repairs done on that car, yeah.
So there is a battle on track between 9th place in the GTEs between Daniel Johnson and Vance Bow as they go down the front straight. As we're taking a look at that lead pack go through the Curva Grande, but here we go. Vance Bow just making his way past Daniel Johnson, and Daniel getting the air cut off from him a little bit. But look at Vance Bow. Look how much he can gain on Ryan Huff having taken that toe down the straight.
And let's stick with this, but a quick mention. I said that Pelchat did not qualify. Well, he's up to 7th after starting at the back of his field just by keeping cleaner than everybody else around him. So the number 49 is doing quite well as we continue to watch Bow and Johnson come out of the second Lesmo. Huff leading the pair of them. This is all for 8th position.
Yeah, and Patrick Pelchat's doing well in that prototype field, but out of the drivers who are behind him, he's the only one who hasn't had any sort of trouble. So his gains have been mostly keeping the nose clean, and that's a major factor in multi-class racing.
Well, what this has done for a number of our prototypes is there were some question marks from drivers on if it's going to be a 2 or 3 stop race for them. Usually in the past season and a half, they've changed the fuel so that it's not that sort of narrow window they had in previous seasons. But here they are so fast, they are flat out for so long that I had a few of them telling me they weren't sure which way it was going to go. And I think for guys like Billy Smith, it's now been answered. It's absolutely a 3-stop race.
Joshua Wolf is right on the back of Patrick Pelchat as they catch up to this lead pack in the GTEs that we've been watching. Take a look at how chaotic this is as they go around Curva Grande and head towards De La Roja.
Gosh, I don't even know how they make everything that's going on as they go too wide down through De La Roja. And it looks like Pelchat managed to get out the other side of that, trying to get by Bradley Haley. 3rd place there in our GTLMs, so really doesn't want to take them out. Haley as well getting stuck up behind, Wolf getting stuck up behind Haley rather, and finally he's able to get by, but the damage has been done. and he's a whole second behind Pelchat.
And that's the terrifying part that can happen when you are going through these multi-class action moments. These guys, it just gets so close, and guys are paying attention to their own battles. It could just get very tense very quickly.
Yeah, this traffic has actually split things up quite a bit in the prototypes. I'm looking through there, and they're all rather far apart. So that's why we're looking at our GTLMs once again, where it has done nothing to quell the raging battle for what is effectively the lead here. Jason DeVries being tailed by a whole slew of cars, though second to third, Haley to Young has got a little bit of a gap now, and this could be their chance to skitter away.
Yeah, and as we're getting, watch Mike Young close up to the back of Jason DeVries here. He's going to get right in the tail tracks. He's actually going to go for the pass this time. This is a development. He has not done this in multiple laps in the past, but here he goes.
Wow, so for the first time, Mike Young decides he wants to lead. Maybe happy with his fuel saving by this point, or maybe he's thinking exactly what we just talked about, leapfrog the pair of them and try to run away from the rest of the field. Bradley Haley just got overtaken by Jason DeVries, our second, thought I saw a prototype in there. No, it was Clifton Naranjo I saw coming through, excuse me.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what you said about the prototypes being all spread out now. They are multiple seconds away from one another, and that means that they can't draft one another. I think that's going to force a lot of these drivers to go on to three-stop strategies. But look, keep your eyes on the back of that prototype field, because some of those guys might not look like they have good race pace, but they might be saving fuel, and if they can make it work, then they can make it. If they can make it to the end, just without taking that extra stop, it's possible they can have a big benefit here.
So we come back now to the battle for third. That's Shane Hunter there in the red and white Mercedes. The black and red is Slavonic behind him. He's ahead of Fleming now. They've swapped around since we last looked. Fleming in the blue and white machine. As they come out of the second Lesmo now. This has been similarly calm to what we've seen up in the GTLMs. Not really a whole lot of battling back and forth. Mostly drivers thinking long term in this group.
Yeah, and they definitely should. We already have 9 cars that are out of this race or with significant damage. And so the long-term thought, I mean, this is the endurance format after all. They still have over an hour of this race to go. This is not time to get chippy. This is time to conserve fuel, conserve tires, and hang out in the draft.
Coming down towards the Parabolica once more. A little bit of a duck out from Sean Fleming. And then he comes back to the racing line. Not a serious attempt. But they all... it's a little bit wide. There goes Slavonic. They became a little too hot getting close in behind Shane Hunter. So they are going to swap around as Fleming manages to get to the inside. Who's going to get the better slipstream off of the car ahead as they fall back by a few car lengths?
Yeah, it looks like Shane Hunter has chosen Paul Slavonic as to be the chosen one as he hangs out in Paul's lane and forces Fleming to fall back a little bit. Paul's going to be able to clear Fleming as they go into Curva Grande.
So they are going to stay in order. No change for position there. Coming back to the right side, braking for De La Rosa. Everyone just staying patient yet again. Checking back in on our GTLM leaders. Young still ahead of DeVries, but I think Haley's now catching them. Haley's cut down what gap had opened up.
Yeah, and that's because DeVries had a really bad corner through through the final corner, and so that's allowed Bradley Haley to close up. And Scott McGarvey hasn't lost a lot of time either, but look how close Jason DeVries is as they come down here. But Jason looks to be content, just like Mike Young was, of staying right behind the leader.
Yep, now it's DeVries' turn to try and save a little bit of fuel as we ride on board.
Paul Slavonic is off track. He has some major right front damage. This is in the GTD field in 8th place. Looks like he has significant damage. He's got suspension damage as well, Joe.
Oh, and Fleming got into the back of him, into Ascari. Slavonic, if he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all.
Oh.
He was a completely innocent victim in this one. Just watch this.
Yeah, he just gets sent into that inside wall, and that's significant suspension damage, right front damage as well. Toes out, everything is wrong with that car, so he's taking it to the pit.
Well, we don't have Kevin O'Keefe here, so I guess the why me moment goes to Paul today. That just stinks for that Audi. He was running a calm race as we come back to the GTLMs where that lead stays very, very close.
Very close. Now everybody's really tight in a pack here, and they're drafting off of Chris Sherburne, who's just ahead of them. The gray Ferrari is Mike Young, the leader of the GTEs, going around the Audi of Chris Sherburne, and that's actually allowed him to get a decent gap. But Mike Young a little bit loose off of the exit. This has given a good jump to Jason DeVries, but is he going to take it or think about fuel saving? Let's see what happens.
He's coming up quickly. He's not thinking fuel saving. He's just using that toe. Ducks that black BMW to the inside, as does Bradley Haley. No, excuse me, Scott McGarvey on Bradley Haley, rather. Haley, though, also gets a huge run, lifts before they get to Curva Grande, not willing to take it too wide through here. So those two will stay in order, but Mike Young gets demoted back to second, DeVries back to the lead.
And if these four can work together, they really will pull themselves away from Kevin Binkley in that fifth position, because they're getting some significant drafts. Scott McGarvey was a good 5 to 7 miles per hour faster than Jason DeVries by the end of that straight. So the draft was really in good effect here.
Let's stay with this, but just another update, because we haven't shown the cameras on them in a while. Santana and Lindsay, Paul Lindsay, are staying very, very close together for the lead in the GTDs, but they do appear to be working together, even though they haven't been separated by much, because I haven't seen any sort of attacks. This is significant because, again, Santana, who has been strong, but not perfect so far this season, and is leading the points. Paul Lindsay missed the first round. He's been incredibly strong. If he stays put, he finds himself in a position to maybe steal the win away from Santana late in the race.
Yeah, that's a definite possibility. And, you know, when drivers miss a race like that, they look like they're down in the points. They look like they're not a threat. But then you take a look at their finishes in the last couple of races. Paul Lindsay has been doing extremely well, so he is very dangerous right now. As we're seeing possibly another pass here on the front stretch with the GTs. No, Mike Young decides to hold off.
As does Bradley Haley. The 428 Ford is going to back out of it. Scott McGarvey didn't have enough of a run to do anything there himself. We're getting close to that half-hour mark. I don't expect them to be coming in exactly at that, but we should see pit stops relatively soon.
And we have a battle in the HPDs. This is P7 between Joshua Wolf and Dominic Olivier, and what's happening with them is a lot of traffic. Traffic is starting to get in the way of the HPDs, and it's really causing all of them to bunch up. We now have, whereas we had no battles for a good 2 laps, now we have battles in 3 or 4 parts of the track.
Yeah, actually, I'm seeing Pelchat has caught Overbay. Up ahead of them for 5th place. Pelchat continues to just weave his way through this field. I don't think that this is strictly keeping his nose clean anymore for Patrick. The fact that he has chased down that number 68, and we know that Overbay is not slow. We've watched him win championships in the Precision Racing League. So something tells me that Pelchat was playing possum with his qualifying, or lack thereof.
Yeah, and what you're seeing right now is Pelchat going around the lap car of Jimbo Pfeiffer, who had some issues earlier on, was involved in an earlier incident. So Pelchat losing a little bit of time, but Overbay's right up there, right for the picking. And they have about 9 seconds up to the GTD leader.
Pelchat only 25 seconds off of the overall leader right now, sitting in 6th. A big gap up to them, but still not monstrous considering it's already been a half an hour. Now, who's been saving fuel, though? The HPDs we got to watch out for, because if it is close, we could be seeing them soon. Anybody who hasn't saved enough probably will be coming in this time or next time. They come around Parabolica here in this group, and Pelchat doesn't seem to be coming down to pit lane. Neither does Overbay. Josh Wolf as well going to stay out, so at least a little bit of a relief there that many of our prototypes here at the back of the field are okay. Giving a little bit of love to the lead in the GTDs. Santana and Lindsay. There you see them on screen. That's Kevin there, and the black Mercedes. Paul riding in that number 70 behind in the red and white. Down and through the De La Roja chicane. They've gapped Shane Hunter by 12 seconds right now. So they're absolutely unfazed by the rest of the GTD field.
Yeah, it's one of those very interesting moments where we see these two guys really gapping everybody else, and we saw this last race too. We had quite a large gap in the GTD field. It seems like this seems to be conducive of the class this season. It wasn't that way last season, but
and leader's pitting.
Leader
is pitting. Nathan Lewis is in. It is exactly 1 hour right now. He is right on the margins. And I believe with Nathan being at the front of the field, he hasn't had time to save. McGarvey and Vigo both keep going, so they're getting a little bit better mileage than our leader. That could be a story.
It could be. Lewis's stop is going to be just a little bit longer than everyone else's, but here we go. We have a couple more drivers in. Michael Overbay, Patrick Pelchat are also into the pit.
We can see Naranjo also in. And Mike Major is a ways away, so he's not going to be able to, we're not going to see him in if he does for a while, as Lewis is out. 21 seconds stop. Waiting for everybody else to take their service. So interesting comparison here. Billy Smith, 23 seconds, just 2 seconds longer than Lewis, even though he's on a 3-stop strategy comparatively. You see our new leader, Miguel Vigo, on your screen.
Yeah, so Miguel Vigo, the new leader, he's got some lap traffic to contend with. Is he going to pit this time, or did he save it up to go around one more time? One more lap could really make a huge difference here. And it looks like he's looking to the pits. Yes, he is.
Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be as far as everybody's able to stretch it. If anybody does get it any farther, then, well, everybody's going to be scratching their heads and asking questions after the race. McGarvey in. Ulmer is in. Where does Vigo come out in comparison to Overbay, though? Or not Overbay, Lewis, rather. Lewis has been dealing with a little bit of traffic. He just caught up to some of our GTD cars coming through Ascari.
This is going to be fairly tight for when he exits his pit stall, but a 22-second stop, so he actually stops longer than Lewis.
Just slightly longer. He gets it going now. Lewis is climbing up the order, and he's got a full head of steam. He's even going to get a little bit of slipstream from Vigo and leaves him in the dust. Everybody else in the prototypes has been in and out. So when are we going to see the GTLMs in? They're usually the next in terms of limited pit window here in the 3 classes. Mike Young decides not to come in. DeVries, Haley, Garvey, yeah, pretty much everybody here not going in quite yet. Looking pretty comfortable in this middle class. Although we have a swap for the lead there. Once again, DeVries going back around Young one more time. Jason, your new leader once more.
Yeah, these guys are still going to be out for a little bit. They're going to have a couple more laps to do after the HPDs have come in, and a lot of them have saved a lot of fuel as well, so expect them to go even longer than predicted.
P6 in the prototypes has a bit of string of cars here. Billy Smith, Josh Wolf, and Dominic Olivier all together and still dealing with traffic. They've just finished their pit stops. Although I say that, Billy Smith has been out for about 10 laps. Remember, he was the one on the 3-stop strategy. So he's going to have to come in again. He's cycled through to 6th place.
Yeah, Billy Smith and Joshua Wolf were actually side by side going down the main straight into the Curva Grande, but Joshua Wolf decided to let Billy Smith go. And I think that's a good strategy call because Billy Smith's on that three-stop strategy. It's not worth fighting him for this position right now. The position that Joshua Wolf has to worry about is the one we're on board with right now, which is Dominic Olivier. Dominic is the real threat to Joshua Wolf's point contention rate.
So as they come down the front stretch, watch them swing it into Curva Grande one more time. Things do seem to be at least a little bit calm for the moment here in the prototype field. Did we have a pass? Yes, Kundinger managing to overtake Binkley. No, Binkley managing to get by Kundinger, it looks like, as he goes around the inside just as we get Clifton Naranjo swinging past. Binkley up to P5.
Yeah, and Binkley, a great pass on Carter Kundinger there on the straight. Kundinger's just going to slip in line and try and follow Binkley through, but they don't have that far up to Scott McGarvey. They can see them on track, so that's a good incentive for these two to get going.
Now, I thought when Vigo came out, he was too far back to catch the slipstream of Nathan Lewis, but I guess that's not the case because he's got it down to 0.8 of a second. Unless Lewis is trying to back his pace off a little bit to get better fuel mileage to match everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I think that might be what's going on because he's quite slow through the Curva Grande there. And so as they go through De La Rosa, I think, whoa, take a look at that. Lewis off track there for a little bit. Not that bad, but Miguel Vigo is definitely going 100%. And Nathan Lewis, I think, is measuring himself a bit here. I think you're right, Joe.
Last lap was a 29.5, and Lewis's quickest is a 28.8. Checking through, that lap seems comparable with many of his clean ones. As we check back in on this battle for P6, and we are also getting pit stops going.
And that was contact between Sean Fleming and Ryan Wash, who were ahead of these two. And Joshua Wolf getting very squeezed there. We do have some pit stops in the GTEs. It's Carter Kundinger and Kevin Binkley, who we saw battling, and Olivier Turcotte. They were in the back of the field there, but wow, that really is separated out the field.
There we see the stoppers down and in. Our leaders, DeVries and Young, keep going. So does Haley. In fact, really, yeah, all of the top four have elected to not come in quite yet as Kundinger returns to the circuit now. And did Carter jump Kevin in the pit stops there? I think he did.
I believe he did, yes.
Quicker, yeah. Nicely done there. Now here's where it gets awkward. They're coming out right ahead of our GTD leader who is yet to pit, and they're going to be split. No, they're even going to be passed. So he's not going to get any sort of blue flags being waved for these two cars. They are on the same lap as him since he hasn't stopped yet. Ooh, meanwhile, let's head back to those prototypes. It is very hot right now.
Yeah, this is in P6 between Billy Smith, Joshua Wolf, and Dominic Olivier. This pack has decided not to play it cool, actually. Joshua Wolf looking to the inside of Billy Smith. Billy Smith covering it off aggressively, but he's going to go over those curves quite hard. Joshua Wolf unable to get a good exit, though. Dominic Olivier close in behind him. These guys have not been playing it kind with the traffic or each other in the last couple laps. They're going all out, Joe.
This could get spicy down here. These points are still important to these drivers, no matter which positions they're fighting for. And I believe many of our leaders in the GTLMs are in, except for Mike Young.
Mike Young was the one who was following behind Jason DeVries for most of the opening segment for a good 15 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes. So he's out there. He's going to continue onward in this lead.
Wow, so he's going to get a handy big opening here on fuel. Let's see if he can make it one more lap or if this is as far as he can go. Oh, and let's go to the lead in the prototypes because there was a look to the inside from Vigo on Lewis into De La Rosa. Didn't actually make the pass, but he's starting to show himself in the mirrors.
Yeah, and now they've got Shane Hunter, who's being a little bit of a pick here in the middle of these corners here, and this is going to be very dangerous. Miguel Vigo going to lose the line here. That's going to make him lose a lot of time to Nathan Lewis off the corner. What was 0.1 seconds is now back to 0.6.
Yeah, that unfortunately was costly. We've had a number of GTD cars pit. Tilly, Lindsay, Wash, Fleming is in. Looks like Shane Hunter has been in and out. Oh, and someone had a very bad entry. I'm trying to figure out who that is in the background. That is Mike. Oh, that's Mike Young. That was Mike Young, our leader in the GTLMs. Let's look at the replay.
He just locked up the tires coming into the pit lane. I haven't seen anything like this in a long time, Joe. He is major right front. He didn't clip the grass or anything, just locked up that right front.
Wow. After he played it so well in the fuel saving, here's another angle on it. He throws it away with something as silly as a botched pit entry. That Ferrari does not look healthy. In fact, he's getting passed quite a bit right now as he's taking extended repairs. Haley will be the one that inherits the lead, well ahead of Jason DeVries.
Oh!
What did we catch, Adam? Sorry we lost you.
Michael Overbay just had a serious moment on the front stretch, and Mike Young, he is back in the pits. But yes, Michael Overbay, he has some significant damage now.
Yeah.
This started in the Parabolica.
Tim McLeish gets caught up in it. This is almost exactly what we saw before, where cars went 4 wide, and wow, our HPD driver actually goes off course and into the fencing. My goodness.
Well, I knew pit stops were going to make things exciting, but I didn't realize it was going to be this exciting, Joe.
Overbay unfortunately had to take a tow. He was literally outside of the track and is now, as you can see, taking repairs. Olivier, in the meantime, continues on chasing Josh Wolf for what is P6.
I can also report that while we've been watching these battles, and look how close this one is, Olivier and Wolf very much on the edge. Our GTD cars have also taken pit stops. Paul Lindsay just coming out into the lead with Shane Hunter a good 10 seconds behind him. So that gap that was so close between these guys is not close anymore.
Let's stick with this, but also worth noting that Vigo, after that mistake that we saw, well, not a mistake, but being caught up by traffic, rather, he's dropped off of Nathan Lewis by 2 seconds. So Vigo is struggling to keep up with the very
and Stephen McGarvey's around now. Stephen McGarvey in 4th position in the HPDs.
Wow. And, oh my goodness, this is another big one. This involved Jerry Mueller and Shane Hunter.
Shane Hunter in 2nd place in our GTD class.
Shane Hunter's even going to go up and over. I think he touches the grass. Look at the car just getting loose on him in that quick
And
corner.
Ryan Wash, too. It was a similar situation between both of those cars. You see Ryan Wash coming.
Wow.
And then wait
Wash
here, and we're going to watch Ryan Wash come into the frame. Similar situation.
Yeah, car just completely loose. I'm guessing they didn't take tires. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Wash didn't.
Look at that. Ryan Wash, there's nothing he can do.
I wonder if with the added G-forces of that turn, not taking tires is actually proven to be a bit dangerous for a GTD class.
I mean, Joe, we talked about it beforehand. I was worried about the Audis doing that because they have a tendency to get a little bit loose through the corners, but I didn't expect a Mercedes to do that through the Curva Grande.
Wow. So going to the P3 in the GTLM class, Kevin Binkley is actually battling with Scott McGarvey now. Remember before he was fighting with Kundinger. Kundinger's dropped back just a little bit. You'll see flashes of him 3rd in line. It's a good run. McGarvey's going to poke his nose to the inside. No defense from the BMW, interestingly. Starts to stall out, though, big time.
And take a look at the run that Binkley gets coming through the Curva Grande at that angle. He's able to gap Scott McGarvey and even cut off his nose a little bit, which reduces the air to the nose. That's part of what could have caused those GTDs going around. They have Clifton Rano now in the 8th position. The HPD's trying to come around them as well, but Clifton's going to get held up at a bad time behind the battle between Binkley and McGarvey.
So I'm checking to see who took tires and who didn't in our GTDs here real quick, just in case we see more spins. Lindsay didn't take tires. He's leading. That's worth noting. And Tilly did. Looks like Kevin Santana did, but he had an unusually long stop. Actually, did Santana have a penalty? I think we missed a trick here. We never called out that Santana not only dropped off of Paul Lindsay, but is sitting in third and had, let's see, about a 12-second longer stop than most of the other drivers.
Yeah, I think he definitely had a penalty there. I noticed that Paul Lindsay had that 10-second lead, and I was wondering why, and that answers the question right there. Kevin Santana, too fast entering pit lane.
Boy, that is horrible for the 666. So Lindsay now has got the advantage in track position and certainly could find himself possibly leading this championship. Well, no, I guess he's a little too far back in the points for that, but he certainly could be ahead of Wash by the end of things because there's only 3 points between himself and Ryan.
Yeah, and Joe, believe it or not, with all of the trouble that these drivers have had today, Paul Lindsay is almost into the top 20. He's P22 overall on this track right now out of 45 drivers.
Just to give you an idea of how many drivers we've lost, Luke Carbonneau is a DNS, Mark Kadrowski, Corey Mitchell, Matt Owens, Marty Jeffrey, Jay Friels, Jared Eaton is gone, Daniel Gralty, Leif Peterson is out of this race. Let's see, Mike Young, Michael Overbay is not back out, Stephen McGarvey is gone. We have had a few return after getting serious repairs. Slavonic is back out, 13 minutes of repairs, he's not giving up. Martin Roy is as well. I think Tim McLeish might be done. He was involved in that big incident on the front stretch we saw a few moments ago. So we got some action here in the GTEs. Kevin Binkley, third in that class, is leading McGarvey and Kundinger still. We were watching this earlier.
Yeah, and Scott McGarvey is under serious pressure from Carla Kundinger as they were dealing with the GTD traffic of Eric Antilli and Sean Reese. And now that they've broken out from that traffic, Carla Kundinger with a great opportunity for a run here. Let's see whether he takes that inside going into the Curva Grande.
He's got the momentum from the draft. He's staying in line. Nope, he is not interested. He's going to stay back.
Interesting. I wonder whether he's a little short. I wonder whether he did that on purpose because he knew he'd be in draft.
Looking at the pit times, he's less than half a second shorter than Scott McGarvey in his pit stall, so I can't imagine it'd be that drastic. In fact, trying to see who's been any of our big savers. And our leader, I'd say, really did it the best. Bradley Haley, who wasn't up at the front of that pack all through the first third of the race, had a 19.5 second stop. That is by far quicker than anybody. Only Olivier Turcotte did this about the same. Olivier's down in 6. Everybody behind Bradley was at least 3 or 4 seconds more in their pit stall.
And Patrick Pelchat just made a pass on Dominic Olivier on the front stretch. Patrick Pelchat up to 6th position now in the HPDs. Like you said, Joe, making serious strides here in this class.
Boy, I would have loved to have seen what Patrick could have done in the qualifying, because I think he would have been a pretty good contender out here. As you can see as we ride on board, that's Olivier still chasing him. They've got some traffic coming up in front in the form of Mark Wilson, as well as, no, not Josh Wolf. Josh Wolf's in their class.
And Joe, oh my goodness, about a minute and a half ago, Kevin Santana's in the pits right now for major damage repair, and he had a similar incident to that which we saw in the other GTD cars. He just had that major spin as well.
He took tires, though. Well, that changes everything. Let's take a look at it. Like you said, roughly a minute and a half, maybe a little bit more than that ago, in the number 666 car.
Yeah, here you go, right into the corner. You're going to see it. This is exactly what I was talking about. Kevin, he's nowhere near the grass, but the car just gets loose on him, and then he tries to correct it, spins him into the wall. We're seeing this with a lot of the GTD Mercs.
Wow. Oh, my goodness. So can Lindsay avoid the same fate? Because now the goal is wide open, and he is going to gain a lot of points on his nearby rivals in the championship.
Means he's got to feather the throttle through Curva Grande every lap, Joe. He has got to be very careful, because if that happens to him, it's open season then. It just depends on who finishes the race at that point.
It really does. By the way, Billy Smith in and out on his second stop. One more to go for the 901. He's the first of our drivers in the prototypes to take that second stop. You can see he's already returned to the track. That sent him down to 8th, so he's not in last. Mike Major currently running the tail end of the field. Well, not even on the lead lap. He is a lap down already. We do still have Jimbo Pfeiffer out there, and Michael Overbay has not yet returned. So technically, Jimbo Pfeiffer is our final runner in the prototypes.
And we're going to take a look at the battle between Scott McGarvey and Carter Kundinger. Scott McGarvey in the 5th position, trying to catch Carter Kundinger in 4th, and they're not far behind Kevin Binkley, ahead of them for 3rd position in the GTEs. This is the battle that will not die. This is the battle that's been going since the beginning of the race, and these guys are still going at it. But the difference is that I think these guys are still trying to save fuel, some of them.
Well, we saw that the fuel is a pretty decently wide window for these GTLM cars, so it definitely doesn't seem to be a case of trying to make sure you're safe on that end. If anything, this is just straight up looking for some trickery in pit lane, taking less fuel on that last stop, see if you could break the draft by getting out that much quicker. That is Pfeiffer in the mirrors that you can see. This is going to just go on by.
Yeah, that's a good opportunity for Scott McGarvey to let Pfeiffer by. He's going to actually try and dive underneath Kundinger. That's going to compromise Kundinger. This could be an opportunity for McGarvey. McGarvey knows that he takes that inside line and gets a good launch off the corner. He's going to have a lot of speed on Kundinger here as they get on the straight.
Carter actually almost went off into the AstroTurf there on the exit of the corner. So McGarvey with the slipstream. Is he staying put? Yeah, McGarvey looks like he's actually still staying put.
Yeah,
can't say the same for Lewis, who goes by.
So I'm really hoping that oversteer issue does not start to become a problem for the GTEs, because I think that wall's had enough torment at this point.
Yeah, really. Well, and you know, every time I always look at that runoff and I think to myself, that is so much space. Surely they, some series could run without the chicane. The GT3s, though they're fast, I mean, they're not insanely fast. And even the GT3s, you saw as soon as all three of the cars that we've watched have that issue go loose, they go straight into the barriers. It does not slow down at all.
Yeah, and that's exactly why they have, that's why they have the gravel there, because in real life that really slows down the cars a lot to go over that gravel. And there's actually a little bit of contact here between Joshua Wolf and Patrick Pelchat in the HPDs. Actually, I believe that was actually Steve Jones who got into Patrick Pelchat. This is in P5 of the HPD class.
Yeah, you're right. That was Mike Major. It was Major that made contact with him. He was getting lapped through De La Roja.
This is one of those moments where, as a lead lap car, you are frustrated with the guy behind you. You're thinking to yourself, how did he not see me coming? And if you're the car getting lapped, you're thinking to yourself, why did he take that moment? That was a dive down the inside. So both guys are going to be frustrated at that incident.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been expecting it either if I was Mike, but I totally understand why Pelchat made that move, because he's trying to get away from Dominic behind him, who's still 8 seconds back. The downside is, after that contact, if he's down on straight line speed, Pelchat is going to be hurting. Let's watch and see if the number 49 is any slower.
It looks like he's doing okay. He's maintaining that gap to Dominic Olivier pretty consistently. Dominic is within the draft distance, so he should gain a little bit on that straight, but it looks like Pelchat's doing okay out the front.
Yeah, I think he got away with it. Doesn't seem to really be down too much.
And speaking of the HBDs, Nathan Lewis is out to about a 3-second lead over Miguel Vigo ever since that moment that we saw with Miguel Vigo in the traffic. At one point, that was 5 seconds. So part of me is thinking that Nathan Lewis is managing this gap a little bit.
I think you might be right. Lewis is going to have to be coming in soon, though. Remember, he was the earliest pitter here of the front group of prototypes. And in about 5 more minutes, or at least he hopes he can get 5 more minutes, he's going to have to come on in. So he gets a little bit of help down the front stretch from Sherburne. And then demotes him yet another lap.
And while we've been watching this, Carter Kundinger actually has made the pass on Scott McGarvey in the GTE class. And he's now the one chasing down Kevin Binkley. So these three are actually starting to get a little bit punchy with each other.
Ooh, up and around Curva Grande to the outside. Scott McGarvey coming to the inside of him as they go too wide. Now into the braking of De La Roja. Scott McGarvey is going to be the braver of the two, and he solidly gets back into that P4. Carter Kundinger with a little wobble off the corner costs him a few car lengths.
Yeah, and Joe, this is just one of those moments where if I'm Scott McGarvey, I'm thinking to myself, you know, Carter's been very conservative this entire race. He's probably not going to challenge me for this position, so I might as well just go up the inside when I have the speed and the opportunity. And that's a penalty you pay if you race a conservative racing style. People think that they can walk all over you, and they expect you to give them room. So that's a dangerous risk you can play, but it might come back to benefit Carter Kundinger towards the end of this race.
You know, Kevin Binkley, though, you watch in front of them, he's probably loving this, just saying, you know, go ahead, battle it out, fellas. I've got this third place here, and I'd like to keep it. He's already stretched it to nearly a second over McGarvey now.
And Dominic Olivier's actually caught Patrick Pelchat in the HBDs for that 5th position. These two guys are now nose to tail, and this was all due to traffic. This was not Pelchat with damage. This was just traffic management, and Dominic Olivier's been managing that traffic just a little bit better, and he's got a really good opportunity to get Pelchat on this straight if he can get a good exit. But look at that launch that Pelchat gets off the corner.
Well, that could deny him right there. It all depends on what Olivier can do with the slipstream now that they're heading down the pit straight. The 44 just staying right in the tire tracks. He's got it down to 0.4 of a second currently. And it's creeping downward on my timing and scoring under 0.4 of a second now as they finally hit the Curva Grande. 3.5 of a second. By the time they come to De La Roja, it is under 0.3 of a second. He's chopped it right down there, but he isn't close enough to try and make an attack, so he's going to stay patient.
Yeah, but they've got lap traffic coming up, and if they tackle that when they go through these next couple of corners. Ooh, Pelchat going extremely wide there. That's going to give Olivier a good opportunity to close up before we get onto this straight. And now they've got traffic. So this is going to allow Pelchat to get a draft off of this GTE car, the GTE of Lance Bow. As they go past him, there's actually a battle going on between, I believe that's Olivier. That's not a battle. That's actually Eric Antilli getting in the GTD, getting passed by Daniel Johnson. But they're going to catch him at a decent time here exiting these corners.
Little bit of a hold up there for Patrick Pelchat, and I think Olivier might have a shot if he wants it. I wouldn't advise trying to pass into Parabolica here. Slightly defensive mover from Patrick Pelchat, then comes back to the racing line. If he can get the launch off this long 180-degree right-hander, Olivier will have a perfect slipstream up the front stretch. They cross the finish line once more. And as he starts to close in, this time instead of starting at almost half a second, it starts at 1/4 of a second. Now down to 0.2 as the 44 gets it to roughly 2 car lengths. And it looks like maybe he lifted a little there.
Yeah, it looks like Patrick Pelchat has a little bit more front wing angle in that HPD in the front. But Dominic Olivier seems to have a little bit more of that rear wing dialed in, so it's just a difference in driving style, but it's definitely helping Patrick Pelchak get the nose pointed on exit and get him good launches off the corner. But what it does is it slows him up a little bit more on the straight, so that allows Dominic Olivier to get a little bit closer.
Can report that even though we're just under 31 minutes to go, Nathan Lewis stays out. So once he comes back around for the next time, as long as he doesn't sputter out of fuel, he looks like he should be plenty safe to be able to take it to the end.
Yeah, and that's, I'm guessing, why he slowed up a little bit at the beginning of his last stint, was just to make sure that he had enough fuel to make it this extra lap if he needed to. So he's going to be pitting at about 29 minutes.
See him heading out of De La Roja there. His gap back to Vigo up to 5.5 seconds. It's hard to argue that Nathan has done nothing but had complete control in this race. Even when he looked under threat for a moment, he's managed to just pull away with seemingly ease over Miguel Vigo. So really it doesn't seem like he should have any worries here come to the end of the race.
And that's what's so fascinating. Miguel Vigo, our current championship points leader in the HPD class, and Nathan Lewis has had command of this race the entire time. It's just awesome to see such heavyweights go at it.
And Lewis did win in Sebring, if I'm not mistaken. He goes around the outside of a car, and does he come in? No.
Oh no, Dominic Olivier! Dominic Olivier just got into Scott McGarvey, and Scott McGarvey has crashed with Carter Kundinger in 5th position in the GTEs.
Oh, two of our prominent players and the GTLMs. This starts with Scott McGarvey getting the shunt.
Yeah, and this is Dominic Olivier trying to take an opportunistic move up the inside through the corners here. And he just gets into him. Watch this right here. He's going to dive it down to the inside, and the Ferrari just tries to take the line, and they get into one another, and then,
yeah. Well, he was trying not to lose. We saw Pelchat right in front of him in the replay. So again, trying not to lose time, just like we saw with Pelchat. McGarvey did get it going, and I think Kundinger did too. So what this does do is Olivier Turcotte suddenly finds himself promoted to 4th. And Kundinger's pitting.
Yeah, Kundinger, look at the left side damage on that thing. That is some significant damage. And he's going to have to... That's going to be a long repair, Joe. I think that's pretty much the end of his day.
That is an absolute shame. Especially when a podium was potentially on the cards. Going to our leader in the GTDs, the number 70. Oh my goodness, is this correct? A 27-second lead over Eric and Tilly right now.
Oh, and I would love to give moments to Paul Lindsay, but Nathan Lewis is in the pits, our leader in the HPD.
And Dominic Olivier going very, very slowly right now. He was the one that was involved in that incident. Oh, that's why.
He didn't get this much damage, though.
Yeah, okay, well, let me check here.
He had a moment through the Curva Grande just like the GTDs did.
All on his own. And okay, no, that's Major behind him. I thought that was Pelchat.
I mean, now granted, this is probably from damage, but we're going to watch it here as he comes onto the front stretch. He's actually going to gap. He's going to put a little bit of a gap there on the car behind him, but then when he goes into the Curva Grande, watch this car get loose underneath.
Absolutely bizarre. That snap happened so fast that really there was little he could do. With the rear wing gone, that car is certainly not up to pace. As that was all happening, Nathan Lewis has taken his second stop and finished that. And looks like Clifton Naranjo is in for his second stop. Pelchat as well.
Yeah. Pelchat's home free at this point from his battle with Olivier. Olivier with multiple incidents now. He's out of the race, so Pelchat's just got to try and make it home at this point. And Miguel Vigo's in.
Vigo, yes, he is indeed in, which means we should see the rest of everybody pitting. John Ulmer comes down to the cones.
All right, so Nathan Lewis is approaching the Parabolica right now. So this is the person who Miguel Vigo is currently combating. But remember that Nathan Lewis had a 5-second lead over Miguel before the pit stops. Now Miguel went a little bit longer, but 18.5 second stop, so 2 seconds faster in the pits from Vigo. Let's see how much that makes of a difference on track.
There goes Lewis, and Vigo's definitely not up to speed. Waiting for the timing and scoring to really give us an accurate reading here. There you see the pit comparison between the two of them. And as they hit the Curva Grande, I think Vigo made up a decent amount of time here, because it's 2.5 seconds. We said it was about 5.5 to 6, right?
It was about 5 seconds, and by the time this shakes out, it's going to be about 3 seconds. So he did actually save those 2 seconds in the pit.
Another quick nod to a driver we haven't given enough credit to so far this race. John Ulmer's running third, by the way. This is a guy that doesn't always have the best of races, and I honestly can't recall us seeing him getting into trouble this time so far.
Well, he's been a spectator to quite a few of the incidents that have happened on track, so he's just been dodging them and running a consistent race. Otherwise, as he goes past the fourth place driver of Olivier Turcotte from the GTE class, John Ulmer doing a great job of keeping his nose clean and running a consistent race. But he is 23 seconds behind Vigo.
Eagle-eyed viewers may notice that Ulmer does have Billy Smith about a second behind him, but again, Smith is not a worry because he has to pit one more time, and his actually should be coming up somewhat soonish. So he'll get demoted down probably to back about 8th place. Poor Olivier, he's been sitting in the pits for quite a while ever since he managed to limp it back. So Dominic still waiting for that rear wing to be finished.
All right, Joe, here's my question to you. Paul Lindsay in that GTD, he's seen quite a few of his comrades spin out through the Curva Grande. Do you think he is going to take himself some tires on this next pit stop?
Well, the question is, well, we've actually seen a car that took tires spin off, and that was excuse me, just lost Kevin Santana. I was trying to say Mike Major, and I knew that wasn't the case. Kevin Santana took tires, and he spun off. So I don't think it's necessarily the tires. If anything, I wonder more as we watch Turcotte take service here. Is Paul Lindsay even aware of the issues that others have been having through that corner? Because we don't know if he has a spotter who's been letting him know. We don't know if he's watched any of them wiggle loose and fly off into the barriers.
I would hope that he's noticed a couple of cars off in the barriers as he's come around and a couple of cars disappearing. And, I mean, everyone can see the tire tracks go out through the gravel from there, and they're all in the same place. So at some point, you got to start to think to yourself, something bad must be happening there.
Yeah. Well, that's assuming you are looking out there. I know my eyes usually are trying to look to the apex in that corner, so I don't know if he's really paying attention. But, yeah, if he's seen them, hopefully he's put 2 and 2 together. We actually do have Billy Smith catching up to John Ulmer now.
Yeah, they just went by Paul Lindsay, and here they are on the front stretch, and Billy Smith's got a great run.
And Ulmer does not need to defend here. He can let him go because he's going to have to stop another time. Again, something where you need to be aware of your surroundings, aware of what strategy others are on. Didn't look like Ulmer really was in a fighting mood, so he appears to at least be up and up on what's going on with the 901.
Yeah, and Joe, we've been talking, we can stare at our data sheets and we've been telling the viewers what strategy that Billy Smith is on, but when you've got your helmet on in the race, it's really hard to know what strategies the other guys are on, who's taking pit stops and who isn't. And some drivers have good assists that can help them out with that. But at the same time, when you've got your helmet on, you're in the thick of the race, it could be really difficult.
Let's head over to Daniel Johnson, because Vance Bow is making some very threatening moves here. He is just weaving back and forth, getting himself in the mirrors. This is for 4th place in GTLMs.
And it looks like it's
Bow,
working, Joe.
Bow is another one I want to say. He was way farther down in this class. Now in the top 5, looking at a 4th place. Is whoa, a little bit tight there on the left side there for Hellchat to get through. He does get to the inside. He's going to try to execute the pass. Oh, was that ghost contact? Johnson just suddenly weaving off to the side. I'm not sure if that was a correction or if netcode. Let's take a look at the replay here.
Yeah, this is a fascinating one. We're going to take a look at Daniel Johnson, and he turns into the corner. It looks like he rebounds off of ghost contact here. Let's see what happens.
Hard to tell. It
might be under braking, Joe.
There, yeah, because he could have just counter steered there, or it could have been contact. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that it was a counter steer. Oh, counter steer. That settles it right there. The onboard where we saw the hands just suddenly go right to the right, and unfortunately, that 25 got stuck in the gravel for at least a few seconds there.
We've had our first taker in the GTE class for pit stops. That is Bradley Haley, who has come into the pits. Well, not our first taker, but our first taker from that lead pack. So he is now dropped down to 5th and is about a second behind Daniel Johnson as he goes through Curva Grande. So he's got some ground to make up, and he is the first biter, so he had to take the longest pit stop for fuel, 15.9 seconds. So expect to see the other GTEs shorter than his.
De Vries now leads by de facto, since he did not come in. And is Ulmer going to try and retake Smith? He's stuck with him. If I was Ulmer, I would not. I would just kind of ride right behind in the slipstream. And I think that's exactly what he's doing. I don't think he's actually going for a move here. Is in. Yeah, no, he lifts. He lifts. Ulmer's a smart cookie. He may not have the most wins here in the service, but I think he knows his stuff.
He's pretty aggressive on the curves, too. He might be a little frustrated with Billy Smith slowing him up with how aggressive he's being on those curves.
Thing is, he's got 24 seconds back to Pelchat. There's another 25 seconds up to Vigo. Ulmer doesn't need to be in a rush. He's not going to catch anybody, and he's not going to be caught by anybody. So it doesn't matter too much if Billy Smith is a slightly slower pace.
Like I said, keeping his nose clean, just doing his thing, and he'll have a podium unless he decides to send it up the inside and go over the curve.
The cheese is still on the pizza, but barely.
That's a change of fire suit moment there.
I'm sure when he's watching this back, he's going to be shouting for us to get the cameras off him now so that he can finish with a podium.
Yeah, look at that. He
braked
a little bit too late
there. Who's that in the GTDs? That was Paul Lindsay.
Yeah, Paul Chat's going to be kicking himself for that one for a while, I think. And that's just one of those things where if you get your focus off for just a little bit, for just half a second, you brake half a second later, you could just you send it in just a little bit too hard, and that's how on the edge these guys are going, even when they're just trying to get to the end of a race.
All right, confirmation that what we're saying is not crazy, because Billy Smith is in, so Ulmer staying put behind him has paid off, and now Ulmer's totally on his own. Smith is coming back out, and I was a couple positions up. He's actually returning in 6th. Nope, make that 7th. Naranjo just went by.
We've actually just had a pass for 4th position in the GTEs with Bradley Haley getting past Daniel Johnson. Daniel's just going to slip right in behind Bradley Haley, and that's because Daniel has yet to pit, whereas Bradley Haley has pit. So Bradley Haley back up to 3rd position with decent pace now in that Ford.
And Kevin Binkley pits. So another one of our top drivers taking their final stop in the GTLM class. Is Johnson looking for a pass here?
I think he was taking his line, and Bradley Haley was taking his line. And it's one of those things where, as a driver, you look over at the other guy and you're going, "Why are you over there?" And he's looking in the mirror going, "Why are you over there?" But different drivers like different lines through these corners, especially with how long and wide that turn is.
Steve Jones and Mark Wilson also on pit lane for the GTLMs. Got a while before we see the GTDs taking their stops.
And Jason DeVries is in from the lead.
So this should hand it back to Haley, maybe? Well, it depends on what Vance Bow does. Bow still hasn't reached pit lane. DeVries is on the limiter and comes down to his stall.
I believe, actually, DeVries might be able to... No, I think it should be handed back to Haley if Bow decides to pit. I'm doing math, Joe, and we know how bad that goes. So Bow does decide to pit. So here comes Bradley Haley coming through the Parabolica, and we're going to see whether or not he's going to retake the lead here. It looks like DeVries is off and rolling.
Haley's just crossing the line right now as DeVries passes the cones. Haley with all his speed. I think it's going to be closer than it looked before. 2 seconds quicker for DeVries. And DeVries is ahead. He doesn't quite have the speed. They're coming up to Curva Grande, though. What's going to happen into De La Roja? Is this enough for Haley to be able to make it an easy pass, or is he really going to have to charge his way by? Comes up behind him, and as they come onto the brakes, DeVries has the lead solidly.
We have a battle for the lead in GTE for the final stint, folks.
This is going to get tense, especially between these two longtime rivals in this series. Haley, who has been looking for a championship forever. DeVries, who has championships under his belt, actually left for a bit in this series, came back and proved he's still quick.
Yeah, so Bradley Haley, wow, look at that. Jason DeVries gapping Haley a little bit before they get onto this straight. Looks like that BMW is handling very well at this point.
DeVries with the shorter stop, though, this time. Did he take enough fuel? Or is he going to find himself having to save a little bit in these final 13 minutes? We ride on board now with the Ford of Bradley Haley, watching ahead.
Yeah, this is going to get interesting because Bradley Haley, he's going to have some serious pace here. He's going to have to use all of the pace he's got. And it looks like the GT leader, Paul Lindsay, has hit pit lane.
In fact, he's already out. Paul Lindsay did not take tires. It was a short stop for him. And I believe, Lindsay did not take tires in the first one. So he's going on a single set of tires for the 90 minutes. So we come back to our leaders in the GTLMs. I'm keeping half an eye on this, and also in fourth place in this class because Huff and Turcotte are trying to sort that out.
Miguel Vigo is close up to the back of Nathan Lewis. It was about a second and a half a lap ago, and now Lewis has lost all that time. Vigo's right on his tail.
Something we haven't mentioned, too, that the sun has continued to really get lower and lower. You can see the shadows getting very long now. The temperature's only gone down marginally. It's about 81 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface. But in these final 12 minutes, that could still dip with certainly how low the sun is in the sky.
Joe, I think Nathan Lewis has become friends with another curve because he's way down on straight line speed compared to Vigo. I think he's a sitting duck.
Oh, wow, and no pit stop that he can come in and get that repaired. This is it. He's got to deal with it from here on out. Let's see if the lead swaps down the front stretch. They're going to have Mike Wilson to give a little bit of a tow to Lewis. I don't think that's really going to be enough to save him, as here comes Miguel Vigo in the number 36. Tries to defend, but that extra speed, 186 miles an hour versus the 183 for Nathan Lewis. Vigo just making it look easy.
Yeah, and for the eagle-eyed viewers among you, you might see that Nathan Lewis has front left damage on that car, not on the splitter, but on the cowling that goes up over the tire, and that's affecting his straight line speed. Our de facto leader, Sean Fleming from the GTs, is now into the pits as well. But remember that Paul Lindsay had a 40-second lead over him, and Paul has already regained the lead in the GTD class.
Just trying to figure out where exactly it was that he got the damage. As that battle between Huff and Turcotte getting awful close with a lot of traffic around them.
Yeah, that's Robert Cancian that they're going by. And fortunately, he moves over. They have Jimbo Pfeiffer, who's actually on the same lap as them in the HPD, who gets a little bit of a bad exit. And that Turcotte has a sympathy bad exit as well. And so Ryan Huff looking like he's going to get held up a little bit behind these guys. That's Paul Lindsay, who's ahead of Jimbo Pfeiffer. That's the second place GTD driver.
And as all as this is happening, let's stick with this. Lindsay and Tilly, Fleming and Rosenbaum, top 4 in the GTDs, have all pitted, and they are all spread apart. In fact, Lindsay still has 30 seconds over in Tilly, so really nothing to show there other than Paul running away with things. So we see from on board in Tilly getting a little bit of love, as he has had a decent race. 10 minutes now left to go. Bradley Haley is closing in on Jason DeVries. The battle for the lead in the GTLMs is still on. DeVries may have jumped him in the final stops, but if I know Bradley Haley, he is not going to take this lane down.
No, he's not, but he also is lacking grip. And he's really starting to struggle here through the turns. That's why Jason DeVries has such a good lane and such a good line through these corners. So, yeah, look at the gap he's pulling on him.
So the difference in the makes of cars, the differences in setups, causing different strengths and weaknesses between these two. They don't have much time to try and sort it out if they haven't been paying attention to them before. They've had plenty of time to do so, as both Haley and DeVries have been close to one another for much of this race. Through, and really these are our closest fights in the GTLM here. Lewis is trying to hold on to the back of Vigo, and he has it staying within half a second. I'm not sure that he'll really be able to do much considering its top end speed that he's lacking.
Yeah, and take a look just on board with Bradley Haley. You've been on board with him for the better part of this lap, and you've been able to see just the speed that Jason DeVries carries through the corners. If Bradley Haley does get past DeVries here on this straight, he's going to have to put some serious defensive moves up for these corners because DeVries really has the advantage through the twisty bit.
Haley takes a little bit of a look, but it decides better of it. Meanwhile, Huff and Turcotte not separated by much, as you can see on your screen. Some big damage, though, on the front of Turcotte. That could be slowing him down in a straight line. We'll find out now, because he had a good exit and he had a little whiff of the draft. Ryan Huff is starting to pull ahead, though.
Yeah, and that's because Huff was able to get the draft off of Joshua Wolf, and Turcotte's been actually carrying that damage for quite a while. He had it when he came into his final pit stop, and look at that. Ryan Huff getting a little bit loose through the Curva Grande. Now it's happening to the GTE cars, Joe.
Well, this could get pretty thrilling if we have a lot of tires that are way too tired to hold on at the end through that corner. Both of them successfully through De La Rogia. I haven't noticed this damage before on Turcotte's nose, and this has got to be frustrating for him.
Yeah, it's frustrating. He can't make those passes each of the times he's gone down the front straight and through the parabolica. There's been traffic that has been assisting Ryan Huff to keep ahead.
Huff in the Porsche, looking pretty spick and span in comparison.
Oh, Patrick Pelchat is out.
Oh, no.
This was a single car incident.
Ascari takes another victim. I'm going to try and find it here. This is in the final chicane of the lap. I think we need to go a little farther. This is through the Lesmos. Here we go. Yeah, right here.
Yeah, he just gets a little bit loose coming off of the curb. Oh, jeez, yeah, the car just gets loose on him and he goes around. And as we
right
come
into
back
the
live, Olivier Turcotte's going past Ryan Huff on the inside. He's coming here. They come up to the Curva Grande.
side by side through there, around the outside. Ryan Huff still powering his way out. The weight on the rear of those wheels shows he has got enormous grunts, great mechanical grip. So he's going to deny him yet again.
Yeah, and Joe, I think you're right about that front end damage. I think it is hurting. Oh no, here he goes. Ryan Huff off to the side. He goes a little bit deep into the corner. That allows Olivier Turcotte to go up the inside, but Ryan Huff's going to stick with it, get a better exit. He's going to get a great block.
That might have been the best chance that Olivier had. And
we have a pass for the lead going on as well. Bradley Haley to the inside of Jason DeVries for the lead in the GTE class as they go through the parabolic. He's able to get it done, but Jason DeVries now has the draft up in behind Bradley Haley going onto the straight.
I don't know why he did that in the Parabolica. Now it looks like he's just going to get leapfrogged right back, or will he? Oh, he leaves just enough open for DeVries. Is he going to keep DeVries all the way over into the grass? No, he's going to give him the room. DeVries has a nose in as they go wheel to wheel, coming up to the Curva Grande. What about these two? Can they hold it side by side into this corner? Are either one of them going to get loose? Don't see the same sort of outside effort from Haley that we saw from the Porsche before, but he is holding on at least. He's better on the brakes, down into the De La Rocha chicane, and he is going to get the lead back.
Jason DeVries doing a good job of holding onto that on the inside. Looks like he got a little bit squirmy, but Bradley Haley was a little tight through the Curva Grande, and he was able to hang on to it too. Both of these cars struggling a little bit on speed, but both of these drivers not willing to give up.
This is where it all pops off. Drivers know that it's go time. No more saving fuel, no more playing tricks out here. You've got to be in the front and leading this race. As DeVries takes a little bit of a look and then comes back to the racing line, Bradley Haley breaking down into Ascari. He's got to get as much of an exit as he can off of Parabolica if he wants to try and shake Jason DeVries, who clearly is quick in a straight line.
DeVries is just quick everywhere. Bradley Haley's car looks a little bit tired, and the tires look a little bit tired. Jason DeVries' tires are starting to get tired too, but the BMW's tires that get tired are the rear tires, and those are not the ones that help you steer through the corner. So as Bradley Haley goes wide on the exit of the Parabolica, Jason DeVries has a great tight line and has now got the draft on Bradley Haley as he ducks to the inside.
It's looking like a repeat of last time. And instead of keeping him all the way down, he's going to come back to the racing line. Jason DeVries, oh, well, there was a car coming out. That was Sean Reese, so I think he didn't want to tangle with them as Bradley Haley held him off last time. What about this time as they come into the Curva Grande? Fully past him, Jason DeVries, very quick through the right-hander. This time it doesn't look like Haley's going to be able to come back at him, and indeed, he's going to stay in line.
And while we've been watching this battle, Olivier Turcotte's giving another attempt on Ryan Huff for that fourth position. They're side by side. It's almost like the same thing, this time with a Porsche replacing the Ford. The Porsche on the outside, Olivier Turcotte on the inside. Let's see if they can stick it through the Curva Grande.
Just diving it into that corner. Ryan Huff looks incredibly strong in the Curva Grande. He is going to stay ahead. Turcotte just can't seem to do anything. That's a lot of curve. And Olivier has to really dive to the side to keep from running into the back of that Porsche.
That battle that we were watching, though, just shows the difference on setup, on car, on how much tires are left. You saw Bradley Haley try and make that same move as Ryan Huff on the outside of Jason DeVries for the lead and was unable to do it. And so at this point, it's just amazing to see the differences of these cars, but how well balanced they are on speed.
We're going to be 3 to go potentially here. Actually, I think 2 to go this time by for Vigo, who's coming to the end of the lap. So let's take a look there. Ever since he got by Lewis held on for a lap or two in the slipstream, but once he lost it in the traffic, that 27 has fallen way away. It's about 3.5 seconds difference between them. White flag. Nope, not white flag out. Excuse me. 2 to go here for
just barely about 15 seconds away from white flag, but he has to take another lap.
I think most of the prototypes should be safe. Most everybody did get in with enough of leeway. So what's going to happen here with our lead in the GTLMs? This has been the action for much of this final stint, this final third of the race. We still got 2 laps to settle it. It's going to be Jumbo Pfeiffer coming through, actually on the same lap as them, so they won't get a blue flag. They got to watch out here, make sure that they pay attention.
Yeah, and Jimbo is actually significantly down on speed as well, so this might be a little bit complicating for them. Bradley Haley, I think this is one of those times where you do make the pass into the Parabolica because you've got that HPD who might get in between you guys, and here he goes.
Down to the inside. We've seen him pull this move before, and actually worked out decently last time. They're going to go 3 wide with one of the GTD cars. Rosenbaum staying out of the way for them, doesn't want to get involved in it. Side by side. He can't get a slipstream from over there, and they are going to have to give some space as we go 4 wide through there, going past Lionel Duprat, and everybody comes out the other end. Jumbo Pfeiffer down the inside leads them beat.
That is close, and look at that. Bradley Haley able to make the move, but here comes Jason DeVries up the inside, and which is going to become the outside going into the corner. He's actually going to back out a little bit. This gives advantage to Bradley Haley.
And clock runs out just as Miguel Vigo comes up to the Curva Grande. So he got the white flag just moments ago. They're going to give that white flag to these two right here as we take a glance at Miguel Vigo.
Yeah, and they've got the battle for 5th in the HPDs just going by them as well. This is Billy Smith and Clifton Naranjo. They've been battling for the last couple laps, and they're trying to settle out a battle in that class as well.
And don't forget, that's Christopher Sherburne in the GTDs just in front of him. Well, he's trying to stay out of the way. He does somewhat, although that was an awkward place to let them through. Paul Lindsay already on his final lap as well. Speaking of which, Miguel Vigo's in Ascari right now. He's not too far behind our GTLM leaders, but he's not going to be able to lap them. They'll get a whole lap to try and settle this out.
DeVries has a fantastic run. We're going to have to take a look at Miguel as he goes across the white to take the finish line, but this battle will continue on.
Yeah, Miguel Vigo coming out of Parabolica. He's going to take the victory here in round 4. Another one to his list. Meanwhile, that battle for the lead has Haley to the inside with DeVries to the outside. This might not be the place that he wants to be, because even though he will have the inside of this corner, it's going to be the outside here into De La Rosa, and he backs out of it.
That was a squeeze from DeVries right there. Bradley Haley unable to hold him off at that point, but Bradley Haley got a really good exit. But look at this, DeVries blocking with all of his might. Bradley Haley nowhere to go. DeVries trying to seal the deal here on the back end of the court.
And we got to go to Paul Lindsay because our leader in the GTD class also comes out of Parabolica. Could this be a championship run for the number 70? Victory here today in Italy for him. From deep freeze DeVries to big squeeze DeVries here today. So far, he's got the advantage. He's got the car ahead, but he goes deep into the corner. He makes a mistake into Ascari. This is the chance that Bradley Haley needs. Is he going to be able to capitalize on it? They are side by side on the run down to Parabolica. He's got a little bit of better momentum, but he is on the outside. DeVries, how deep does he dare take it? Will he shove him to the outside? He takes it in very deep. Could it be too deep for the over-under potentially? As they come to the line, it's going to be a drag race to the finish between them. Who's got it better? Who's going to get their nose to the line? Just slightly ahead for Deep Freeze, and he's got it!
Wow, what a finish!
Just incredible. Let's look at that one more time. I thought for sure that Jason threw it away, sending that in way too hard into the final corner.
This is just beautiful racing between the two of them. Look at this. Bradley Haley braking early. Jason DeVries braking late. DeVries going extremely wide, almost losing it on the AstroTurf. And Bradley Haley up the inside, but just couldn't get the power down. His car was too tight this entire last stint, and that allowed DeVries to pull away with the win.
Inches between them at the line. Just absolute inches. And I'll have to get the gap in a little bit. We'll come back with that after we take a short break. We're going to give you the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Monza. We're just speechless after that finish. You can see here in the replay how incredibly close it was. A side-by-side battle through the last few corners, kicked off by a mistake there from De Vries through Ascari. And to the line, it was 2/100ths of a second. But let's start with our prototypes, finishing with Miguel Vigo winning over Nathan Lewis, who had the pace all race long. Damage on his left front rather, unfortunately slowing him down, and he just couldn't do nothing to hold back Vigo, so Lewis settled for second place, nearly 5 seconds back. John Ulmer, with probably the most quiet third place he's ever had, was ahead of Josh Wolf in fourth. Clifton Naranjo was fifth place, and Billy Smith in P6. Last on the lead lap for Billy. Then you get to Mike Major, who finished seventh, and Jimbo Pfeiffer in eighth.
Jason De Vries takes the win over Bradley Haley by that 2/100ths of a second, with Kevin Binkley coming home in third, quite a ways back of him. Ryan Huff is going to come home in a safe fourth position, with Olivier Tricot, a great recovery drive from him, in the fifth position, being challenged by Vance Bauer up until the last moments of that race, with Daniel Johnson finishing in the seventh position, Scott McGarvey in eighth, Steve Jones in ninth, and Mark Rilson is 10th. And your last finisher on, your last finisher on the lead lap for the GTEs.
Once you get to the GTDs, Paul Lindsay is your winner down there by a wide margin. Still, Eric Antilli with a solid second place survived where others didn't, especially in that Curva Grande, which claimed a lot of victims. Sean Fleming rounds out your podium in those GTDs. Pelchat, who eventually had to DNF, is why he is stuck in the middle of our GTDs. Rosenbaum finished fourth with Sherburne in fifth. Shane Hunter, who probably should have been a little bit higher up, unfortunately was in sixth because of some damage he got with an interclass incident. Ryan Wash behind him, then followed by Carter Kundinger, another driver with a bit of a DNF today. Jerry Mueller, then 28th overall. Sean Reese, 29th. Olivier, another one of our faster classes with damage. Duprat in 31st, and Slavonic with another DNF. Everybody from here on down are DNFs for the field. A lot of attrition, which we didn't really predict here. So certainly was a damage-filled race for many drivers, but not for Miguel Vigo, at least not on his own car. Miguel, I have to say, the old saying, I'd rather be lucky than good, might come into play here. It seems like even though you didn't have the pace for Nathan, just sticking with it paid off.
Yeah, yeah, kind of crazy. Actually, I was just talking to him. It looks like he picked up some under-trade damage. He might have hit one of the curbs a little too hard. So I thought he was just really tight on fuel because I was just kind of saving a little bit as much as I could, so I didn't have to take as much there at the end. But the start of the race was I kind of made that mistake in lap 2, and it kind of allowed Ulmer and Jason to kind of get up with me, and we just lost him. So, and he was really great in traffic, and he was just their car was just on point. I mean, I was losing about 0.2 on the exit of Ascari, so and then our car would kind of gain it back through Les Combs. But he ran a great race, and it's a shame that it just ended up the way it did. So I was pretty happy to stay in P2 to grab some points, but yeah, it's just luck of the draw,
Adam called the damage out middle of the race when he suddenly noticed you had caught him. But I'm trying to check my stat sheets and flip through. Is this win number 2 or 3 for this season? I know you won at Daytona, obviously, but obviously it seems like you're.
Yeah, this is win number 3. I had I didn't have a really good run for Coda. I got hit early on, and my car just was, too damaged, so I just couldn't really continue, and I had to retire the car. So far, doing all right, I guess, championship points wise.
Yeah, this will certainly help you quite a bit since Stephen McGarvey also did not have a good day out there today. So you're going to stretch that lead, which was frankly the tightest. Next round, though, we are going to Barcelona, which we have not done yet in this series, if I remember correctly, because I don't think it was released last season in time. So how are you feeling about heading there for this style of racing?
It should be a great track. It's actually one of my favorites. I'm not sure yet if we're running the F1 layout or maybe the historic.
Looks like historic in my notes.
Oh, okay, then yeah, that the historic last corner is one of the greatest. So we'll definitely be able to see hopefully some really good racing again. I'm actually surprised the race here actually kind of worked out without the first chicane. It's the first time I've ever run it. And it was really fun, going 185 and 186 just on that long start-finish straight onto that first or the second chicane, our first braking marker. But definitely looking forward to it. And yeah, well, I'm sure Nathan and TQ boys will be right up there again.
That seems to be a big threat this season. That was our winner, Miguel Vigo, in the prototypes. Up next, we have our winner in the GTLMs. Adam has caught up with Jason DeVries.
Jason, you had quite a battle to the line there. Coming out of Ascari, though, with that slip up, walk me through those last couple of corners.
So going back to season 5, I had a battle with Brad Haley and Savretic, and I did about the same exact thing in Ascari, except I hooked the right rear and spun off the track, so I had flashbacks from there. So it wasn't that bad, so I was able to hang on to it, and Brad just raced me clean. He's a phenomenal driver to race against, and I really enjoy the battles that we get. I don't get to run up front too often, so when I get to run with those guys, it's a lot of fun.
Did you realize how close it was when you came off that final quarter? And were you sure you were gonna pull it out, or were you afraid that Bradley had the run?
Well, at that point, there wasn't a whole lot I could do. I was looking out my right side door, so you really can't do a whole lot in that situation. If you try to side draft or bounce off them, usually you end up wrecked. So, if I won it, great. If not, oh well. At that point, the bed was made. It's just, you keep the wheel straight and the throttle down, and, whoever wins it is who wins. So it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it out there.
Yeah, and you were doing when you at the beginning of this race, you were doing a lot of drafting with Mark Wilson. Was that a plan to save fuel a little bit, or was that just trying to bide your time until the pit stop?
Mike Young, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was Mike has a very similar driving style to me, so we really don't have to communicate too much on track to know what we're all doing. We've all raced in Neo for a very long time together, so at that stage of the race, if he's got to run, I'm just going to let him take it and fuel save, and I know he's going to do the same thing to me. I really liked how well I was managing the race up front. He was actually a little bit faster, so if he wanted to gap me, he probably could have. But I liked being out front there. So his fuel saving was obvious because he's able to run another lap. Unfortunately, he had some issues on pit entry, and we didn't get to play out our battle for the rest of the race.
Well, fantastic finish regardless. Great win, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
That was Jason DeVries, our first place finisher in the GTEs. Joe?
The GTDs, your winner was Paul Lindsay, and by quite a big margin. But Paul, before that, let's start with you hanging out with Kevin Santana. Now, he took the pole, but you two started to streak away. And we've asked already the other drivers a little bit about the fuel. Were you just kind of sitting back there to try to conserve a bit yourself?
Well, I got out pretty good, and then I was behind Kevin. And he had the pace on me. Like, I had the pace on him with the draft, but I knew that if I got out in front of him, he was just going to pass me back. So first and foremost, I wanted to get away and get a gap. And once we had the gap, and realizing that I couldn't really do much with Kevin, I thought I'll just save fuel, and that's what I did. And he must have gotten into trouble somewhere because, he got into trouble in the S there, in whatever you call that spot, and I passed him by there, and so not again.
So the other question we have for you, though, we noticed a number of cars that lost control in Curva Grande, the first corner, the big sweeping right-hander. Were you noticing the car starting to lose handling late in the race there? Was that a non-issue for you?
Oh, no, that was an issue for the whole entire race. I had to get out of the gas coming into the curve, and then I could get back into it once I had the car set. But if I had somebody on the outside, then that made it even more troublesome. So you really had to watch yourself through that curve.
Well, that certainly helped too, because unfortunately for Santana, he did not, and he fell victim to that. I mean, did you see any of the incidents or any of the leftovers from that, like the tire tracks zipping out there? Because we wondered how easy you were taking it, with that being an issue for others, and if you were even if you knew to take it easy.
Yeah, no, I was taking it easy. By halfway through the second stint, all the way through the third, I was just pacing myself. I thought I had a pretty good gap. I was watching my relative, and nobody seemed to be really in a position to challenge. So then it was just, let's get it to the end. Let's get it to the end, get a win.
And that you did, helping your fight here in the GTD Championship. Since you started a little bit late, it certainly will help. Congratulations, sir. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you some more this season.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks.
Paul Lindsay, our winner, once again here in the GTD class. Up next, Adam has, I believe, we've got Josh Wolf in here.
Yeah, Josh, a very consistent drive from you coming home in that fourth position. You did a great job today. How was it with the traffic and the changing conditions out there?
It was definitely a challenge. I kind of decided on the last pit stop I was starting to have a little handling issues, and I decided to be safe with all the attrition that was going on. So took those tires and had a little bit of work to do after doing that, but Patrick ended up losing it there, and I kind of just rode on through to the end there.
Yeah, and you saw the battle with Clifton and Patrick happening up ahead of you. How did you have any? We noticed you having a couple of close battles earlier on in the race, but how was it later on in the race? Were you just managing your stuff at that point?
Yeah, a lot of it was just managing, watching that, just all the HPDs or GTE cars, stuff like that, just getting together. I just wanted to try and stay clean. I wasn't super fast. I'm not a big fan of this track. I just can't find speed here. So I figured just try and survive and see what happens. And of course, maybe it could have been a little bit better. It looked like John was trying to save fuel there at the end. And maybe if I hadn't taken tires, I could have had a shot at a podium. But still, good finish here and go on to the next round.
Well, Josh, it's great to talk to you. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go tonight?
Oh, thank you guys. You guys always put on a great broadcast. Love watching you guys.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to us, Josh, and we look forward to seeing you next round of Barcelona.
Yep. See you guys.
That was Josh Worth, our 4th place finisher in the HPDs. Back to you, Joe.
That's going to close us out for our interviews with a big thank you to the Autobahn series for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Huge thanks to all the people behind the scenes. They have a big staff that helps run this and make sure that these events go off. Also, a thank you to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalade, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Doug. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media on Twitter. That'll be at GSR Channel. We've got a Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel and Instagram at GSRC_RAM. If you'd like to support us, we've got a merch store at gsrc.storingby.com. You can find a link in the description below if you don't want to type that in. And if you're down there, look for the subscribe button. It'll be big and red. Click it and you won't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race, as we mentioned, we're going off to Spain, Barcelona, one of the newer tracks here on iRacing. That'll be Monday, March 9th at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out, mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.